Hi, everyone. This is Julia,
And I'm JCK.
and you're joining the Missing Manual. We are going to have an exciting little time right now.
Absolutely. I think so for sure. So
Yeah.
we're excited to preview a little something that we're working on. So we've been working on this podcast for a couple months now, right? And
Yeah. This might be
we're
like episode
that's
11-ish.
crazy to think about. It's crazy to think about. But what we're recognizing is that just like many people who are out there in the world, we have stumbled upon an opportunity to leverage AI to make our lives easier. And
And
instead of doing
specifically,
that,
maybe my life a little easier, right?
specifically Julia's life easier, because to be clear, she does most of the operations around the podcast and then just sends me the JCK, do this, and I go and do it. Most of the time I do 24 hours.
But that's also because I'm not working a full-time job right now and you are. So I've got a little more time to do this. And it's been great for me to learn, although I know I've got a lot of opportunity to improve. And as we've been playing with AI, this mess, it's not a mess necessarily, but a clunky process and manual process is one that is ripe for automation. And as we've talked about, we want to learn out loud and share some of the trials and tribulations at building a podcast or as working adults or semi working in my case. We want to share what we're learning with you so that you can take some nuggets and learn alongside with us, or maybe it inspires you to play on a different problem that you're working on right now.
Yes, because the likelihood is, those of you who are watching this, you're probably not building a podcast and needing to leverage automation in order to make your life easier, right? But you probably do have something that is friction filled and is ripe with opportunity to be able to leverage AI and automation. So as we go through the series, I want you to take a look at what we're doing, right? But ultimately scale back and or zoom out and think, what is it in my day to day where these concepts, right? The concept of follow the friction, like map the process, reverse engineer, leveraging it with AI and automation. Where does that three-part process apply in your life where you can potentially, choose to begin?
So let's talk about the problem. We record the videos and then I edit them. I try and use our tool that we record in to create thumbnails. They're not great. I have Canva.
You should know one thing you should know about image generation tools. They are using the internet in order to make patterns about how somebody fits. And for somebody who is racially ambiguous like myself, the AI often thinks I will be Spanish one day, Italian another day, like Native American another. Like it's so funny because it's trying to essentially merge my face, like how I look in the patterns that are there in the back end. And almost always it gets it wrong. But
If you
sorry, I
look at our
interrupted you, Julia.
thumbnails, you'll be able to see how well I do at thumbnail generation.
It is
But
not your
even,
fault. It is the model's
yeah,
fault, to be clear, but it's comical and it just makes me laugh every time I see them.
and the facial expressions that it auto chooses, like the tool that we use, like I'll be looking like and just have weird facial expressions that it'll pull. And then I'm like, no. And then I'll take images of JCK and I and try and do something with our actual images. But even then, it'll insert hands with the wrong number of fingers. I mean, these are the things that you're dealing with when you're using AI. Just thinking through the process, we record the videos. I edit them in the system. I don't like the thumbnail capabilities in system. We also need to come up with a title. We need to come up with a summary. The system does give us a transcript, and then we can use AI to help automate the thumbnail creation, summary, the titles, and then even content that could be specific to me, specific to JCK, and then specific to the missing manual page. We also create little shorts, typically from the broader package of video. And so helping identify what the best snippets are to use for those shorts and other content is really important. The tool we use to record does give examples, but I really like looking at the transcript itself to see things that I think would resonate with those that are listening and other people that are working today and having similar struggles. You can see it's kind of complex and a variety of different things. We're going to walk through and do a couple videos.
So just to make sure it's totally clear, we are going to build a project within Claude to be able to that's toned and tuned to this specific problem. So it's going to help us in the future. We are going to be building those within our own individual Claudes. Because right now, today, that may change in the future. You don't have the ability to share a project within Claude. So we're going to both do it parallel. So then we both have the ability to do this at scale, right? And in order to do that, we need to properly ground that because Julia and I both have our own individual grounding documents that describes what our version of good is. But in this situation, we are taking the two of us and we're putting that good together. So we have an opportunity to build a separate, like it's a separate grounding document that anchors to what our good is, right? But one thing I wanted to make sure to call out here, like as we zoom back out, right? As you're thinking about things that happen in your day to day, what Julia talked about was some of the AI tools that are embedded with Riverside, which is the technology that we use, aren't as good as some of the other technologies that are out there. And so what she's doing is she's identifying where those gaps are, and then she is using the other tools that are at her disposal to fix that process gap. So we don't have to go end to end with the same tool. We are figuring out what's the best model for the given situation and for our given problem. And that's what you have to do as well when you're sitting in these seats.
I do think sometimes a tool might be good enough for your
Hmm.
purpose. And so you need to evaluate which, I mean, I think about in my work as a talent acquisition leader, looking at talent technology. Sometimes the best in class is so piecemeal that it might not make as much sense as doing an, good enough all in one tool that can do everything okay. And you'll need to think through which of those scenarios is fit for purpose of whatever your problem is. In this
Yeah,
instance, we're going to try and do a little best in class,
exactly. Exactly. All
but
right.
something for people to think about.
Ab-
We're going to do a series of videos. We're not going to do this all in one, but we're going to try and chunk this out into a couple videos. Well, we'll build out the grounding document and then use this video, the transcript from this video, to be our first test case for the process that we're going to build around the production of our videos.
Absolutely. We're learning out loud with you, my friends. And that's an important thing when it comes to AI.
So we're going to be building a project that has a grounding document in it. And then we're going to have Claude interview us to get at and answer questions that it might need to help us build the best project and process possible to automate as much as we can. There are things that we are not going to let AI automate. For example, thumbnail images. We might have Gemini identify a couple images because I think Gemini right now is the best tool around image generation and things like that. So I might have Gemini pick 5 clips that have JCKNI in there that it thinks best represents us or the content. And
Hmm.
then the human will identify if one of us looks a little off or funny um,
Right. But what we
with
can
that.
do in that process is we can craft a precise prompt that goes to Gemini that says, here's the deal. We don't want to look like crap. We don't want to do this. We don't want to have weird faces, right? And we want to give it as much direction so that that slate, much like a slate of candidates, that slate of pictures is at least a little bit more fine tuned than it was today. Then we're putting the human in the loop to pick out of those 5, right? It's a
Yeah.
combination of leveraging the AI and the human to make the decision.
Yeah. So you're going to watch us work through this and build this together with some back and forth, with some stumbles, I assume. And
Is important when it comes to AI because it is when you stumble often where you glean the blueprint for how to do some of these things right. Right?
yeah, for sure.
All
Anything
right.
else you want to cover?
No, I think, again, for those of you who if you made it this far, amazing. Thank you for staying in with us. But like I just want to make sure that it's clear you may not have the use case of a podcast that you are trying to operationalize in a way that is much less friction for a human, right? But you probably have some sort of other process at work or at home that you could operationalize that you could leverage AI to help you rethink that differently. So look at the process that we're going through, not necessarily the exact like
Use case.
identified use case. Yes, there we go. Thank you. Thank you so much. So
See how we
that's
we
all.
work off each other so
It's
well.
so true. It's so true.
So thanks for tuning in, and stay tuned for the next couple of videos. I don't know if this is going to be two more or three more. I think we're going to see as we start building where there's some natural stops and conversation. And again, we always try to keep these bite-sized, under 20 minutes, and stay tuned for more.
Until
Have a great
next
day,
time.
everyone.